talking today with Lieutenant Colonel Ross Vincent of Onstead, Michigan. The interviewer is James Smither of Grand Valley State University. Now, Mr. Vincent, can you begin by giving us some background on yourself? Start with where and when were you born?
I was born in Kendallville, Indiana.
In what year?
In November 20th, 1924.
Mm-hmm. And what did your family do for a living at that time?
My mother was a school teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and my father was a mechanic for a road building down there in Indiana.
So working for the state or for a company that made roads?
For a company.
Okay. All right. Now, was he able to stay in that job through the 30s, or did he move around? Or
Well, he was in that until we had the big depression.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1929, early 30, he was without a job. And the income that we got was from my mother,
Mm-hmm.
who was a school teacher
Right.
in one of the little teaching schools in a little area.
Mm-hmm.
And as a matter of fact, in the wintertime, she would drive her old Model A on the highway, and then the president of the school board there would come out with his team of horses and meet her there,
Mm-hmm.
and hook onto the front bumper and haul her to the school, and she would then have to build a fire for the kids to come
Mm-hmm.
when they came, so it would be warm when they came to school.
So why did he have to tow her to the school? Just to save gas?
The car couldn't go through the drifts
Oh,
in the
okay.
wintertime.
All right. Now, then, did you grow up there?
No, I grew up in Hillsdale, which was where she would start and drive to
Mm-hmm.
that school.
Okay.
And I went to Hillsdale all the way through school and graduated from high school from Hillsdale,
Okay.
Michigan,
And then when did you graduate from high school?
in 1942.
All right. Now, do you remember hearing about Pearl Harbor?
Yes,
Okay. And how did that happen, or how did you hear about it?
I heard it on a Sunday morning. It was on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, President Roosevelt described what had happened, and that was scary.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I said, I know what's going to happen to me. I was worried about what I was going to be doing when I got out of school.
Mm-hmm.
I knew then that I would be either joining up or being drafted.
Mm-hmm. And did you consider going ahead and just joining up right away, or did you figure you'd wait until it was your turn?
I wanted to wait.
Okay. And how long did you have to wait before they called you up?
I was called up in 1942.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it was in summer of 42 that I was called up.
All right. Now, I'm just checking on dates here. If you were born in December 1924, if you're drafted in 1942, you're not even 18 until December. So you got a draft notice at 17?
I may be wrong on that then.
So it might be 43?
43.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So that would get you pretty much right after. So you have some time there, but not a whole lot. So you're kind of just out of high school, then pretty quickly you get the draft notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now, once you're drafted, then where do you report? What do you have to do?
I went to Fort Custer,
Mm-hmm.
which is up there by Battle Creek.
Right?
And they decided that I would be going to Europe as a military police. However, I was able to take the Army Air Corps exam
Mm-hmm.
and passed it And that seemed to override what the other orders were, and orders were cut for me to be sent to Texas to take the beginning of the United States or Army Air Corps.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then where in Texas did you go first then?
Hondo. Well, no, first I went to the Alamo.
Okay, San Antonio.
San Antonio.
Right, Lackland or that complex, yeah.
Well, they call it Lackland now.
Mhm.
It wasn't Lackland
Right,
back in
right.
1940, 43. But I forget what they called it. There was another name for it,
Mhm.
but that's where then they started, and they sent me back. Then from there to Toledo, Ohio, and I went to the University of Toledo, which is called now,
Mm-hmm.
and took my CTD training,
And what is CTD training?
college training detachment.
Okay.
And they, with that, they gave us a familiarization in flying,
Mm-hmm.
and a group of people that had Piper Cubs
Mm-hmm.
that they owned themselves took us and gave us 5 or 6 hours of flight
Mm-hmm.
training, and then when that was done, why I took all the other book with the education in geometry and physics, what have you, advanced,
Mm-hmm.
and from there I was then transferred and sent down to Texas.
Okay. And how long did they have you staying up in Toledo then?
I believe it was between 3 and 4 months.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're going to get about long enough to have college courses done in that term.
Yes.
All right. Now, did you have to spend pretty much all of your time studying and working, or?
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
We went to school all day, and we were in actually it was the recreational gymnasium that we were billeted in,
Mm-hmm.
and we could refresh our memory by lights went out at 9 o'clock, and they gave us a flashlight and 2 batteries, and you would read and do that, but they turned the lights out on us,
Mm-hmm.
and if you wanted to read after that, then you used the flashlight and read it, and you go to sleep with that,
Mm-hmm.
and you wouldn't remember to turn the darn light
Mhm.
off, and so they would issue us another set of
Another
batteries.
set of batteries.
So that's how I got my education,
Mm-hmm.
more so than what I got in high school, because I played around then. But there's
All
no
right.
playing around then. They wash you out right away.
Now it's serious. Okay. So from there, then they send you back down to Texas. And then what kind of training are you getting at that point?
At Texas, I went through again a semi training in the form of marching and what
Mhm.
have you, until I was able to be assigned to Hondo, which was navigation school.
Mm-hmm.
And from navigation school, I learned how to be a navigator, and that's where I received my commission as a second lieutenant.
Okay. So they were not. Were you trying to get into pilot training, or?
Yes, well, they gave you tests,
Mm-hmm.
and they said you're qualified to either become a pilot
Mm-hmm.
or a navigator, not a bombardier.
Right.
And why, I don't know what the difference would be between the
Mhm.
bombardier and navigator. But for some reason, maybe they had quotas. They said but they said you can go into navigation school or go into pilot training. And I chose navigator.
Okay. So you didn't opt for pilot training. Was there a reason why you went for navigator?
Yeah, I thought I'd rather go ride in the thing rather than to have to fly the damn thing.
Sensible enough. All right. Now, what kind of stuff did you actually learn then as a navigator? What did they have to teach you to do, or what skills did you need to do that job?
Oh, as a navigator?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we had to learn definitely how to use a sextant to shoot the stars
Mm-hmm.
and the moon and what have you. That is a form of navigation.
Right.
And when you are out either in the Atlantic or the Pacific or wherever you're at, there's a long space in there and many hours of flying before you can see anything.
Yeah.
And so you better know where you're going and how to do it. And they taught us how to accomplish that by sextant, by the use of drift meters and various other information. At the very end of the conflict, we got into radar. And of course, radar came up into being a necessary thing. And then from there up until the present time, radar has been improved to the same as the airplane with just a set of wooden wings and what have you, compared to what it is today.
Sure. All right. Now, how long did this navigation training take?
Well, I was there for, I was into flying training until 1945, or 1945.
Okay.
And then I was sent to the Pacific.
All right. Now, did you do all of that navigation training in the same place? Were you staying in Texas, or did you go elsewhere?
No, when we became a crew, then we went to Walla Walla, Washington, to get our final fine tuning as a group with the pilot, co-pilot, navigator, bombardier, the engineer, and all the gunners,
Right.
which would make a 10-man crew. And that's when we all got together for the first time and did practice bombing, what have you, down Blythe, California, flying from Walla Walla down there. And once we got through with that, then we were ready to go to San Francisco for head west out into the Pacific Ocean.
All right.
Towards Hawaii.
So you went out by ship, or did you fly a plane?
Fly.
Okay. Now, did your whole crew fly together, or?
Yes.
Okay. Because in a lot of cases, crews went separately, or a lot of the ones going over to Europe, that would happen that way. A couple of them would fly the plane, others go on boats and different ways.
I understand some of them was the same way that way, but we had our whole crew went together.
All right. Now, were you going out as a replacement crew? Were you going to be joining a squadron out there, or?
We did replace a crew that went down, but that was not the main thing, because they were still building up. Even right up to the end of the war, they were still building up, and we just happened to come in and replace a crew that went down.
So, otherwise, you might have been in a newly created unit that was going to go help bomb Japan in the attack, or?
Well, we were briefed that when we got to Clark Field, that we were going to attack the Japanese country
Mm-hmm.
with 1,000 plane raids, and that we could expect 50% casualties, and that that was what we had to work with.
All right. Well, that's sort of jumping ahead a little bit here. So we're going to go back. What kind of ship did they put you in when they sent you out to Hawaii? Or not, that's where you were flying. You flew to Hawaii, and then from Hawaii, then you flew on where?
From Hawaii, we took we left our plane at Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
and we got a ship from there to the islands, and which would be Morotai.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in a Navy patrolled unit that we were in the center, and they had
So you were in a convoy.
convoy
Yeah.
unit.
All right. And did you have any submarine scares or anything like that?
Yes,
Okay.
but they didn't get into where we were at.
Mm-hmm.
They put all of the ships, well, like the fuel
Mhm.
ships, what have you, they were on the outside, so that they had to get to them before they got to us.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we were protected by these little ships that were smaller than what do you call them?
So they'd be corvettes or destroyer escorts or something like that?
Destroyer escorts,
Mhm.
yeah. Not, they weren't destroyers, they were
Yeah,
escorts.
they were smaller ones, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And so, but they did encounter Japanese submarines when they were going across?
We did have them encountered. They hit us a couple of times, but they
Mhm.
never got into only just the outside.
Right.
And we were squashed right in the center, which was nice.
All that. All right. Now you get to Morotai. What sort of facilities were there when you got there?
Quite primitive.
Good description.
Quite primitive. But very, very well. They were primitive, but very well compared. When you're we were called the Jungle Air Force,
Mm-hmm.
and as such, we were in the jungle. But the air base was right at the edge, and you could walk into the jungle from
Mhm.
the air base there, and but we had a good mess hall, and we had excellent repair people
Mm-hmm.
to repair. As a matter of fact, things would be boring when we didn't fly,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd go over there, and the mechanics that were working on the aircraft would show us something to do,
Mhm.
so we could get our hands dirty
Right.
and also help out. And that's how I learned more about an airplane than any other time.
Mhm.
Was working with that.
Right. Now, was that common? Did a lot of the aircrew come and do that?
I would think we did. Yes, I would say that was common.
Okay.
It was. I was learning.
Right. Well, was there much of anything else to do? How else could you spend your time when you weren't flying?
Writing letters, and it was. You had to get accustomed to the climate
Mhm.
too, and that was one of the hardest things I had, was getting accustomed to the change in the climate and
Mhm.
what have you. But outside of that, we lived in a tent arrangement on stilts. The stilts were roughly, I would say, 3 feet high.
Mm-hmm.
And then the tent was up above that. And with a screen door on it. And if you wanted to, you could roll it up, and it was screened up to roughly 4 feet. But you generally left that down because generally we had rain and what have you.
All right. Now, why were you on stilts?
There were certain types of animals and snakes that you didn't want to crawl in bed with you.
All right. Aside from poisonous snakes, what did they have? Rats or other things?
There's a guy that was kind of a wild boar, I'd call it.
Okay.
The thing that bothered me was the snakes.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a screen door on there, and one time there was one that we shot that was a snake. I don't know whether it was a poisonous one, but it was big enough, and we laid out newspapers that we got, and I would say it was probably between 7 and 8 feet long.
Yeah. Well, that big. It may have been a constrictor or something, but still.
No, I don't know that it was that. It was long, but it wasn't big around.
All right. Okay. Now, were there still any Japanese on the island anywhere?
Yes.
Okay.
The Japanese had placed troops in for invasions of quite a few of the places on down from when they were moving down to conquer the whole area.
Right.
And when MacArthur came back from Australia, they came back so fast that they didn't have time to pick up all of their men.
Right.
And we figured that there was several hundred people, Japanese, on the island there while we were there at the same time. And once in a while they would take a peek at us.
Would they shoot at you or try to come in and get food or?
I was stalked by one, and I don't want to discuss that.
Okay. All right. Were you advised to stay out of the jungle?
Yes. We were protected by, and they did a wonderful job of protecting us, the Australian came in.
All right. Now, you did fly some missions off of Morotai?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about those?
The ones that I flew in, which was 3 combat missions before I went up to the Philippines, were we were bombing the Balikpapan oil fields.
Right, on Borneo. Yeah.
In Borneo.
Okay. Now, when you were making these raids, was it just one squadron at a time or a whole group? Or?
We would fly generally a squadron. Sometimes it wouldn't be full. One time it was not full. I believe that the 2 others, and then of course we went on. While we were doing that, we went on patrol, flying patrol, trying to find out where the various ships were, the types of ships, what have you, and from that we were able to bring back that information when we were debriefed.
Right. But how many patrol flights did you make?
I would say 8 or 10.
Okay. And were you patrolling sort of all around Morotai?
Search patrol.
Okay.
Trying to find the enemy.
All right. And did you see enemy shipping when you were doing this?
Yes.
Okay.
And we had flew down on one of these times, and they were disguised. We didn't know, but we went down to check on this one Japanese ship, and they had it all decked out as a hospital ship.
Mm-hmm.
But we flew around it, and they had big boxes on top of the ship there that looked kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
And we, instead of being a hospital ship, it turned out to be full of Japanese army. And as we got there, come back the second time to look it over, the boxes dropped, and there was these, I don't know whether you call them machine guns. They're almost a cannon.
Well, they could have like a 20 millimeter cannon or 40 millimeter, something like that.
Something
So
like
anti-aircraft
that.
guns.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Then we pulled out of there in a hurry and reported that by radio to PBYs.
Mm-hmm.
And they in turn, I guess, got submarine on
All right. So your patrols, these would be done by individual planes, so you could all fan out and cover large areas and so forth.
it. That's right.
Okay. Were there particular sectors of ocean that you usually got between one place and another, or did you go different places?
It was assigned.
Okay.
different.
All right.
We were given an assignment.
Now, when you were flying these missions, did you ever encounter any Japanese aircraft?
No.
Did you encounter much anti-aircraft fire?
Things got pretty well cleaned out, and keeping in mind that people before me had done all the work,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess that'd be about the way to say it, wouldn't it?
All right. Yeah. So by the time you're there, things are pretty well worn down.
They
So-
were pretty well wore down to the point of the end.
Mhm.
And when we were told that we were going to be losing all of these airplanes if we made that deal,
Mhm.
that was the time the atom bomb was dropped.
Right.
The first one on Hiroshima,
Mhm.
and the second one, the day or two after that,
Right.
was Nagasaki.
Mhm. Okay. Now, you were at Clark Field by that time.
Yes.
Okay. Now, how did the facility at Clark Field compare to what was at Morotai?
Oh, we had nice barracks.
Mm-hmm.
Clark Field was a very large air base, and as such, we had very good facilities. And I was then assigned to more ground duty than flying,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't care, whatever they wanted.
All right. Well, what kind of duty were you doing?
I was INE officer, information and education. And as such, it was something like a place for the people to come in and do various things that they'd like to have done. Keep them busy,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
something that they could enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
That was my job. And that's what I started out to do in that. And I also then, at that time, I went to our photo lab that did all the picture taking and developing,
Right.
what have you, rather than sending it all the way back to Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a complete photography unit there
Mhm.
that all the people there at the base could sometime come in and do some of that stuff and be able to send it home to mom and daddy or their wives or something like that.
Now, did you have a lot of Filipino civilians or military
Yes.
personnel there?
I had one sergeant. The rest were Filipinos.
Mm-hmm.
And they were paid for by the, I guess, the United States Air Force,
Mhm.
or Army Air
Right,
Corps.
right.
I guess say United States Air Force, but I stayed
Right.
in after that and in the United States Air
Okay.
Force.
Now, what condition did sort of the Philippines seem to be in from what you could see?
Well, the Philippine people were very, very appreciated of what we did
Mm-hmm.
for them, and they tried to show it in many ways, many respects. I got my laundry cleaned
Mm-hmm.
by a lady that would take it down and wash it into there's a stream
Mhm.
down there that didn't look too good, but it would wash the clothes out. She'd bring them back, and then she got, I wanted to have something made for a scarf
Mm-hmm.
so I could bring back, and I'd seen some,
Mm-hmm.
and she showed me of a person that she could bring to me
Mm-hmm.
that I could make a scarf for me and put on that scarf in nice writing and what have you, threads, beautiful thing, which I have. I brought it here to show of all the places that I had been at over there,
Right.
and then it's 13th Air Force and
Mhm.
what have you on. So the Philippine people were very nice to all of us, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
There was a certain group that were more or less what I would consider communistic,
Mm-hmm.
which is nothing new,
Mm-hmm.
but they were there, that they were trying to, build something.
Mhm.
But I don't know how it turned out before I left.
Well, they didn't do too well, apparently. All right. Now, how long did you stay in the Philippines, or when did you leave?
I left there in August of 1946.
Okay. So you're basically there pretty much a full year there after the end of the war.
Yes.
All right. Now, did you go into Manila and things like that?
Oh, yes.
All right. And what condition was the city in during that time?
The city was in very good shape, I thought,
Mm-hmm.
wherever we went. I didn't see too much, but as such, but you don't go downtown.
Mm-hmm.
The big buildings were blown apart,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as where the Philippine people lived,
Mm-hmm.
was all, the downtown section was all blown to hell.
All right. But fighting there had not really gone on for really long periods of time. It
No,
wasn't really a new
no,
battlefront
it
or
was
anything.
it was a scratch fight.
Mm-hmm.
As
had
a
bomber
matter of
attacks.
fact, I went to class in school there, just trying to get some more.
Mhm.
It was voluntary, but I wanted to get it, and they had it for us. That would allow us to take so many credits.
Mm-hmm.
But that was at the stadium there, and you could look right out the stadium, and there was some Japanese tanks that where they had gotten entangled with the United States Army
Mm-hmm.
with some tanks, and they had a big battle in there.
Mm-hmm.
So those tanks were still left in there when I got there. You remember that?
Yes.
All right. Had not heard that one before. Okay. Let's see. Now, were there particular things that happened there while you were staying in the Philippines, individual events or things like that tend to stick with you?
Yeah, one of the things that impressed me, and that is when a baby is born, they don't have a celebration. When a person dies, they have a brass band. You remember that?
Yeah.
Struck you as a little bit different from that.
I was invited to when a person got married, because I had a photo lab and because I had a 4x5 Graflex camera
Mm-hmm.
to take pictures of a wedding. And then I had the wedding all made up and gave them back to the people that were there so that they would have remembrance of that. After things were tore up for the Philippines, pretty much
Mm-hmm.
to the point that anything that we could do for them, they were certainly there to help.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, by the time you got the orders to go back home, were you ready to go?
You bet.
All right. Now, when you got back to the States, then what did you do?
I was discharged at Sheridan, Fort Sheridan, Illinois,
Mm-hmm.
and I was supposed to be there for 3 days, and the third day come by and nothing had happened. They said, would you like to stay in the Army Air Corps? I said, not especially. And they said, well, we just wondered. We'll see how we can process this stuff. I'll
Mhm.
get you out of here. So the next day I went back and said, orders haven't been cut yet. Have you changed your mind? How would you
Mhm.
like to go to the active reserve? No. So I said, okay, orders should come through soon. And so the third day, then, afterwards, I went down there, and they said, change your mind? I says, would that help me get the hell out of here?
Mm-hmm.
They says, yeah. So I signed up for active reserve. That's why I stayed in.
Okay.
To get the hell out of Fort Sheridan.
All right. Now, in practice, what did that mean to be on the active reserve?
Well, I went to the active reserve and found out about, of course, that West Point was where all of our people came from
Mm-hmm.
that got a commission
Mm-hmm.
and then went to flying school or something like that. Normally,
Mhm.
you could go to Annapolis and you could change and go to the Army Air Corps if you
Mhm.
wanted to, but those two, until 1947,
Mhm.
they established the United States Air Force then, and we had the Air Force Academy for them out at
Colorado Springs.
Colorado
Yeah.
Springs. But I said, okay, I'll sign up, and that's what I did. Well, then, I'm glad I did, and then I stayed in and got from first lieutenant up to lieutenant colonel.
All right. And then what did you actually have to do to fulfill your obligations as somebody who's part of the active reserve?
My job was to sell the Air Force Academy,
Mm-hmm.
and by such, I was assigned a certain area of the state of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And I went around to the schools and looked at the people that were of the top grades that I figured that could make it
Mhm.
through the academy.
Right.
Because the West Point had their own, been in it for years.
Mhm.
They didn't have any salesmen. They didn't have to have that.
Right.
but the United States Air Force
Mm-hmm.
was a brand new one,
Right.
and we were their salesman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I established that. I received no compensation from
Mhm.
that. I spent many dollars on gasoline and what have you, attending school talks and what
Mhm.
have you.
All right. So what did you do for a day job?
As a day job, I originally went into the shop and became a tool and die maker,
Mm-hmm.
and stayed there for a little while, and then I decided that I wanted to go into banking, and I did. I spent 23 years as a banker, and was senior vice president of the bank and on the board of directors besides, and I retired from that.
All right. To kind of look back on the whole thing now, how do you think your time in the service wound up affecting you? What did,
I think it made a man out of me, because I was pretty wild before I went in,
mm-hmm.
and I was absent in my senior year more half days than I was there, and the military fine-tuned me
Mm-hmm.
to becoming anything that was worth a damn.
Now, when you made the switch from tool and die making into banking, did you do a college degree in the process, or did you just go in with your work experience and military experience? When you went into a banking career, I mean, usually.
Well, I went through the Air University
Okay.
in budget and fiscal.
Okay. So you had a degree at that point, or training?
Well,
practical training.
they don't give you degrees.
Okay.
They gave you a statement
Right.
stating that you have graduated from that, but
Mhm.
as far as a degree, I don't know.
Mhm.
But it gave me an interest that I wanted to
Right.
get into banking,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how I finished. And my wife is in banking now,
Mm-hmm.
and I met her through going into banking.
Mm-hmm.
So that pretty well establishes the whole thing.
All right. Well, then, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
I thank you, sir.
All right. That'll be a wrap.